Hi guys, and welcome to the Whipping It In podcast, the podcast you didn't ask for. And we're doing a new series, and it's doing the best Premier League 11s from different countries, different nations. And to kick it all off, since we're all Asians representing a part of Asia, um, we're doing the Football Confederation teams that have played, sorry, countries that have played in the competition. Most recently, who's won it? Is it Japan?
I
South
don't know.
Korea, South Korea, because
Or is it Kuwait?
Son.
So Son escaped military service and he's probably made it in our team, but we'll discuss that in a bit. I've got my lovely Bangladesh cap on. It's a cricket hat, but that's the closest thing I've got to Asia right now in terms of clothing, other than my Primark t-shirt. But how are you guys doing?
Yeah, it's going to be good. I think it's going to be a nice, very cultural discussion today, isn't it? We're going to throw back to the homeland roots.
I've got the Made in China cap, fully made in China, for a t-shirt as well. So that's how I'm going to represent Asia, man.
Let's get into it. So the first player, I think, on all our lists is Mark Schulzer. You'll find out with our list audience how funny it is. So Mark Schulzer, I don't want to say my bit, but the only thing I was going to mention, you guys can mention the stats, but he was in the Chelsea team but didn't play any games, so he missed out on a Premier League title. But for me, longevity was amazing. I believe he's still playing now, and he's got a February award in 2020 as a goalkeeper. So that's amazing. And yeah, guys, what do you want to say?
So like a little bit of background was like Mark Schwarzer. So I think he started like Middlesbrough like 1996, and he's been in the Premier League since 2017. Like Naz said, like he ended his career at Chelsea. Man, he's got like 514 appearances, like mass crazy, and then he's got like 151 clean sheets. Like that's good. That's amazing considering the players he was like. Some of his defenses he had like, especially the Middlesbrough team, and then he was like with Manuel Pogatetz. I don't know how he managed to have 101 clean sheets, but he did it in the end, man. But yeah, that's why I've chosen him. And it's not very much like choice between like Asian goalkeepers or Asian Federation like goalkeepers. Like only a few like Brad Jones for Liverpool, Ali Al-Habsi, man. So yeah, but they didn't have longevity.
Right. Is there any argument for Ali Al-Habsi?
So before I realized Australia was in the Asian Football Confederation, Ali Al-Habsi was my first choice, and I was prepared to like ride the bandwagon all the way. Do you ever see the documentary on the BBC about like Muslims in football and stuff like that, and how all the Omani fans came from Oman to watch Wigan in the FA Cup final because Ali Al-Habsi was that, he was their cup goalkeeper, so he came all the way from Oman to come to watch the FA Cup final. And then Ali Al-Habsi was on the bench, and then they were all like depressed. But he still got the FA Cup winners medal anyway. He's had a decent career, not amazing, but not terrible either. 111 appearances in the Premier League, 23 clean sheets. He was Wigan's Player of the Year for 2010-2011 for that Premier League campaign. 399 saves out of 579 shots faced. But then Australia came into the picture. So I was trying to see if Matt Ryan has any case whatsoever. He just doesn't. I mean,
two seasons, isn't it? That's the main thing. I looked at that. 2 seasons.
Yeah. So, try as hard as I might to make a case for Matt Ryan. Schwartz has got much more longevity, 514 appearances to 101, 151 clean sheets to 22 clean sheets. He's got a better save. Mark Schwartz has got a better save percentage. For two of the seasons Mark Schwartz has played in the league, he had the most saves. He made the most saves in the league. In probably his best statistical season would be 2008-2009. Fulham came 7th. He had 82.6% save percentage rate, 15 clean sheets, only 34 goals allowed. So 38 games, 34 goals allowed. That's less than a goal a game. But it does mean because of the 15 clean sheets, they were like games with multiple goals being conceded. So maybe they just like let Liverpool score 8 and then we can score 1 and then clean sheet against everybody else. But it has to be Mark Schwarzer, to be honest. Longevity. He's got good statistics behind him as well. He never got a Golden Glove, but he was always close. It was always because, like, going back to this 2008-2009 season, Edwin van der Sar had 21 clean sheets. So, it always took like a good goalkeeper to beat Mark Schwarzer. So, yeah, it's a bit of a shoe-in.
Yeah, so you've gone Sunji Hai, Lewis has gone Lucas Neal, I've gone Lucas Neal at right back position. Why have you put him at right back?
Okay, do you guys have Sanjay Hai centre back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Honestly, I said Sanjay Hai because I forgot to change the team sheet. When I was doing the research about half an hour before this podcast, which shows you how prepared we are, guys, I did find out Sanjay Hai did predominantly play as a centre-back. So I forgot to change that on my notes. And I found out Lucas Neal predominantly played as a right-back. So that's just me messing up, to be honest.
But Lewis, let's just talk about Lucas Neal. Blackburn player, had a long start in the Premier League, and is a quality player. How would you describe him? Black, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely started like Millwall at the beginning, and then he got the transfer to Blackburn, and then I think it was to West Ham. So like Lucas Neal has been there since like 2001 to 2010. So he's been over there for like 10 years. So he's got 279 appearances. He's got 6 goals, but 15 assists, and then 79 clean sheets. But what determined him the most was his captaincy at Blackburn and then also West Ham. Like his captaincy at Blackburn was a lot of authority, leadership skills, especially when he had, I think it was, did he have Chris Samba at centre back? So it was him at centre back, erratic Chris Samba, and then you had the authoritarian like Lucas Neal to steer up the defence. So I think there's one West Ham player said that if you had to choose one captain, it'd be Lucas Neal because he was very calm and also he had like good leadership skills, which you really want as a captain, but also like in defensive positions such as right back. So that's why I've chosen Lucas Neal. Yeah. And he's also won I think it's the League Cup with Blackburn at like 2001, something like that.
Yeah. So just I guess we've agreed that Lucas Neal is going at the right back position. Centre back is Sunji Hai that we've all agreed on. He was at Manchester City before they become money Manchester City. The 3 goals, 7 assists, 20 clean sheets in 123 games, roughly 1 in 6. Really, only China's. Could you say the best Chinese player that's played in Premier League?
Possibly, but only because of the lack of other, Chinese alternatives. He was inducted into English Football Hall of Fame a couple of years back, and he was the first East Asian player to score in the Premier League. Solid defender. He was there before all the glitz and the glams of, all the oil money and all the sheikhs of Manchester City. Before like the stars of Aguero and Pinjani came along. 123 appearances, 20 clean sheets, did a solid job. And helped put his country on the map, to be honest, in the Premier League.
I mean, was he in that defence that lost 8-1 to Middlesbrough?
He might have been, but we're only talking about positives here. So
all right, let's talk about positives. So partnering him up is Yoshida. I guess that's all on our list. Lewis, do you want to jump on Yoshida?
Yoshida. Let me go to my notes. So he's been in 154 appearances, 37 clean sheets, 6 goals. Like been there for 8 seasons. He's a bit of like a stylish centre back. For example, we had him he was usually on when Southampton had Virgil van Dijk, and I think it was Devon Lovren. I think he was Yoshida. He was maybe he's on the bench, centre back and a right back position. But since Van Dijk left, he's been more in a centre back position, and he had a good partnership. So I think in terms of good quality centre backs, I think Asia was definitely limited because we're not known for very our height. We're also very, very I think he was quite high, quite tall. Yoshida is 6'1", so he's very, very smaller compared to other Van Dijk. So he's very, very a massive achievement for an Asian player to go into centre back and play for so many seasons. So yeah.
I mean, he was going to mention he was the probably only few Liverpool Southampton players not linked with Liverpool. Do you see any benefits in Yoshida? Any good side to his?
Yeah, I think
his aerial game is really strong.
yeah. So he's just looking out now, 6'2". Maybe he can make a career in the NBA after. But no, solid defender. He's got like a nice technical side about him, because we know Southampton are a technical side. They do like to play good football. They're not really in the sort of like dirty game or like route one stuff, are they? They like to pass the ball around, especially in the early time in their Premier League. Think like peak 2014, 2015, that kind of time.
Pochettino, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, Pochettino. They had like the likes of Lallana, Jay Rodriguez. Remember him? They had like Victor Wanyama, Morgan Schneiderlin before Liverpool gutted the team. Basically, it was a good team, and Yoshida was a big part of that. And he has good distribution skills as well. I suppose you'd have to have playing for a Southampton side that does like to focus on ball retention, possession, things like that. So looking at alternatives, I did want to put Azesh Rahman in for the culture, but he's only got 18 Premier League appearances. So the majority of his career.
By Drogba, if you see, there's a picture. You've seen that, Lewis, innit? Where Drogba just brushes past him. But anyway, yeah.
So I wanted to put Zesh Rahman in, but sorry, bro, man. I mean, I tried. Was there any other candidates you were thinking of? There was a few Turkish players we were considering before we realized Turkey are part of UEFA, despite not being in Europe, and so there was a whole like geographical thing, but sadly Soyeon 2 didn't make the cut. So yeah, we're rolling with Maya Yoshida, who's a good centre back by his own rights, to be honest.
Yeah, I would always describe him as probably like, if any top team, he'd probably be like the best third centre back. Someone on the bench.
Yeah,
Like you know me, if he was in like a top team. So I guess the next one is who have you guys got in left back position, Lewis?
I got Lee Young-pyo. I think when I was researching, there's very limited like left backs who are like Asian in the league. So a little bit of information about Lee Young-pyo. He's a South Korean footballer from 2005 to 2009 for like Tottenham Hotspur. So he played for a really decent team, but yeah. So he had like 70 appearances and 15 clean sheets. And I felt like this is maybe he could have contributed to Son's football ability in some ways. So like Lee Young-pyo brought South Korea and like Premier League into like South Korea, so it was very encouragement, because a lot of like South Koreans, they're only limited to play in the Korean League. So Lee Young-pyo was one of the first players to go into South Korea and to go into the Football Premier League, and this is something that could have inspired the up and coming like South Koreans in their time. Yeah, so I picked him at left back.
I was going to say one of the things that I really like is he has a tackle success rate of 81%, which is kind of crazy when you think about that. But jumping to you, Raha, do you think he made Lee Bong-young introduced sort of England on the map for Korea in some sense, like particularly for the Asian students? Do you think he's made some Koreans think about come to study in the UK?
I don't know what impact he's had on the education system and the education of aspirations of South Korean students, but I know he certainly helped put South Korea on the map with regards to the Premier League. It was a short-lived Premier League career. I think maybe 2.5 seasons, 70 appearances in total. The 81% tackle success rate really stood out to me as well. I had that down on my thing. His first season at Tottenham, 31 appearances and they came 5th. His last season at Tottenham, 18 appearances and they came 11th. Should they have played him more? Maybe. But he got a move to Dortmund off the back of his Tottenham performances around 2007, I think it was. And looking at that period, I would say Dortmund would be an upgrade over Tottenham over then. So I'd say, he got a move to like a better club. And solid defender, helped by the lack of alternatives. But I mean, he's a good good inclusion to this team.
Yeah. So jumping onto the midfield position, one player I think we've all, I don't know how you guys gone. Tim Cahill. Have we all
Yeah.
Tim Cahill in that midfield?
Yeah.
Cahill, yeah.
I just think he's the best. You guys can say your bit, but the best Aussie player that's ever played in the Premier League.
Over Shorter?
Yeah, I think it was more of a joy because, like, you know, you don't like when you think of good players, you don't really think like goalkeepers excite you, do they? Like, no one grows up to be a goalkeeper, do they? Unless you're the fat kid who gets pushed into the goalkeeper position. But I don't know, I think he was, yeah. I mean, I think he was a lovely player, and I was looking at something that made me stood out. None of the goals. So you guys can talk about his stats, but he's never taken a penalty for Everton, and so none of those goals counted. It was all sort of in open play, which was kind of interesting. So that's I like that. I like that about a player more so than dead ball game. But you guys go ahead, Tim Cahill.
So when I think of like Cahill, I think of Millwall, like in the Man United FA Cup final. So when he nearly single-handedly brought like Millwall to the FA Cup, that was amazing. Like, and then he got the transfer from Millwall to Everton. There he played over about 10 seasons, and then that's where he got really his name from. So he's probably like similar to like Leon Pio, like bring some Australian recognition into the English Premier League and how like English Premier League is such a big brand like internationally. So I think Cahill has been a big part of that, and like he's always like, yeah.
Rahab, would you say he's the most liked Everton player?
Most liked? I think so. When you look at Everton players of the past, none of them are ever, like, you know, that kind of like fan favorite who like had no haters. Like, the perfect example of this would be like Kaka. Like, I don't think anybody hates Kaka or like even remotely dislikes him. Even Gabriel Hines and Rio Ferdinand, who he spun, sent for like 2 hot dogs at once. In terms of that, yeah, I probably would say Tim Cahill. I can't think of anybody else. You know, we've spoken about Tim Cahill before on the podcast. I think 200 appearances, something like that, 50 goals, Ballon d'Or nominee. He was like top 50 or something like that. Tremendous header of the ball. You know, one of the best headers in the game. You know, it probably taught Fellaini a thing or two about how to use his head. And yeah, he is a very worthy inclusion.
Just going on back onto that Fellaini point, I was looking at his shooting accuracy was 38%, and that's like a striker. When you think about it, strikers are usually around that 40%. To have that, that's pretty accurate. And in some ways, he was. Would you say like the? I don't want to say Fellaini evolved Tim Cahill and then evolved like a Pokemon version to a Fellaini, but in some ways that position kind of Fellaini stole in some ways, in the sense that it's a midfield, but he's so forward that he's like a striker. Would you sort of agree with that?
I think so, yeah. So I think Fellaini, he started his career standard late, right? I think the first time I noticed him was when he played against Liverpool. Which is the Champions League or Europa League, something like that. And then he got the move to Everton. And on a pitch, if you're looking at it, you compare Fellaini to Tim Cahill, and you ask some randomer, who do you think is better? And yeah, nearly everybody's going to say Marouane Fellaini, just because of the height advantage. But looking at their styles of play, you would say Tim Cahill is a better, has a better aerial side of the game than Fellaini. One, because Fellaini just sort of like runs around and just flails elbows and hopes for the best. But two, like Tim Cahill really like worked on his heading side of the game. Like, when you think of like all-time Premier League best headers of the ball, Tim Cahill does come into mind. Like, he was just so fantastic. Like, he has such strong like neck muscles, things like that. I don't know how many times he worked out neck in the gym, but that's what he was doing, and it worked. It paid off, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, not as good as intense as Mike Tyson, but coming into things, Shinji Kagawa, is he all in our midfields?
No. Yeah.
Where have you guys put Shinji, or have you?
It's an interesting Lewis, you go. I already spoke.
Because unfortunately, he didn't like. He was an honourable mention for me. For example, like I think he was only in the Premier League for a limited amount of time, so like 38 appearances, and in
But he's
that
won a Premier League. What?
But he's got 6 goals and 6 assists, and it's got so. Are these numbers to be? I thought there's other people to mention, for example, like Ki Seung-yeong for Swansea days, and now Newcastle. Who's the other midfielder I put? So Park Ji-sung in the midfield as well. So I think when Cahill is a very technical player, but there's always arguments to say, did he do his like best at Man United? Did Sir Alex Ferguson play him in the wrong position? Because I think there's a lot of talk where Sir Alex Ferguson, he didn't put him in the wrong, right position, and that's why he didn't flourish. I think he was mainly put on the wing, and he's not known for his pace. So when you put a Juan Mata type player on the wing, he's going to be neutralized. So and he was quickly sold to Borussia Dortmund, where he won the Bundesliga as well. So there's arguments for was he played in the right position, and I think he was a massive announcement when he first signed to Man United, but it kind of plateaued out. He wasn't getting the game time. He was put on the wing when he was being played, and he ultimately was the success of like Ronaldo's, the Rooney's, and Van Persie's, and that's why ultimately he could have won the Premier League, because his stats show for midfielder, a creative midfielder, he scored 6 goals and 6 assists, and that ultimately questions whether that was a huge impact to Man United's like title run, and he did win the title. Yeah.
Just jumping to you, Rahab, there was that hype, wasn't it, when Kagawa came into that Premier League, that he would be kind of like a Park replacement. Park Ji-sung, kind of, they were looking like he's going to be that type of sort of player, but ultimately it didn't work out, did it?
No, I think that's probably just the United fan being a little racist and thinking that, every Asian player is like Ji-sung Park. Kagawa and Park are two very different players. Park, he was described by Andrea Pirlo as the first South Korean nuclear-powered footballer. He just, his nickname was Three Lung Park. He just kept on running, and he'd cover every blade of grass about like 3 or 4 times in one 90-minute session. Whereas Kagawa, he's a bit more offensive focused, a bit more focused on creativity, dribbling, passing, more towards the attacking third. So it's hard to put Kagawa in this team. One, I wouldn't put him as centre mid, because that's not where he's best played anyway. And 2, his stats do leave a lot to be desired. So 38 appearances over 2 seasons, which amounts to 1 full season. 6 goals. He did score a hat-trick, which is very nice to have on your resume. And he does have the Premier League medal, but the Premier League medal that he won was the same season that Van Persie went crazy for Manchester United and couldn't stop scoring. So in terms of how much he affected that or impacted that, statistically it doesn't look like a lot. And if you want to look at his playing time there, if he was good, he'd have stayed a bit longer than just a couple of seasons. I know Sir Alex Ferguson left, and then the first season after Sir Alex Ferguson with David Moyes was just a terrible time for Manchester United fans and a brilliant time for everybody else. But it leaves a lot to be decided. If you were going to put him in, I would put him in the front 3.
Okay. So we've spoken about Park Ji-sung. So, and I guess you guys have put him in midfield. So I've got him further forward because I think he's got that ability. But I'm just, when you think about that game against Barcelona, or certain games where he's just tracking constantly, chasing players, he's got that, as you mentioned, that third line. We're putting Park, let's say, in the central midfield, but do you guys have anything good to say? Because obviously I've known him, somebody was telling me about this Running Man Korean show. It's been been a part of that, and I think Rio Ferdinand was on this show, and Patrice Evra. Lewis, you would know better about the show, but talk about Park, Lewis. How do you feel about this guy? Do you think full Premier Leagues, probably the best, one of the best players on this list?
Yeah, definitely. I named him captain for like the side, so I think he's got a lot of like leadership qualities, and like you said, he's got the 4 Premier League titles. He's done a lot of like achievements in the Premier League, but also he captained the South Korean team as well in the World Cup. I think he was part of the 2002 World Cup where they went to the quarterfinals where they somehow beat Italy.
Yeah, they got to the semi-finals.
Semis.
Yeah, semi-finals, and then the Italian fans won't be liking it because they thought it was match fixed by the referee. Yeah, but then going on to like further into his career, like he's gone on to variety shows, like Naz said about, he's gone on to this and he's introduced like Ferdinand Evra onto the show. So he's really brought like Premier League into the Korean spotlight, and a lot of players going into like the Premier League now and also developing their football careers, man. So you've got like Son Heung-min, a lot of up and coming like Park Chu-young, Lee Chong-yong from Bolton. So all these players were all inspired by like.
Rahat, just going back to that question, do you think Park Ji-sung kind of influenced Korean students back in the UK? Do you
Hell, why not? Let's just say, yeah, he inspired people to achieve better academic scores.
No, but what do you think of Park?
Honestly, when I was young, I hated Park. I despised the living sight of him. And that probably just tells you how good he was. Like, you know, he was just so annoying. Like whenever Liverpool play Manchester United, he'd always be like the first one, like getting the ball back or something like that. You know, when you look at his stats, 134 appearances for Sir Alex Ferguson, Manchester United. Like that's Sir Alex Ferguson. Like, you know, if Sir Alex Ferguson doesn't like you, he ships you out same day shipping. You know, you don't even have time to, you know, have a shower from the game you just played. Like you're out. I think his best. Not best, but like one of his most notable seasons, 2005, 2006. He had 7 assists, 10th in the Prem. But yeah, the one like memorable performance he had, even though it's outside the Premier League, Manchester United versus AC Milan, 2010. So not the time Kaká killed the team. Sir Alex Ferguson told Ji-sung Park to just literally just hound Andrea Pirlo. Like wherever he goes, that's where you have to be. Just like be Andrea Pirlo's shadow. And Manchester United ended up winning the tie 7-2 on aggregate. So Pirlo didn't have like, you know, a breather all throughout the 180 minutes, to be honest. And that just epitomizes like, you know, he just doesn't stop running, doesn't give up. There's Sir Alex Ferguson spoke about in his book that he was upset that he couldn't play Ji-sung Park in the final against Chelsea, just because he had been so influential all the way up until to get to the final, to be honest. So yeah, I still hate the guy because he's so good, but he has to be in the team, to be honest. 4 Premier Leagues as well.
I put Ki Sung-young for like longevity in the Premier League. So like he was in like Celtic days where he won the Scottish title, Swansea days. I think when he won the Carling Cup against Brentford or Bradford. Yeah, Bradford. Yeah. I knew it was one of the V's, man. So he's got 15 goals, 9 assists. So he's really more like a deep line playmaker. So he's got 77% tackle success. So that's really amazing, man, especially for a CDM or deep line playmaker. Also, he's got 34% shot accuracy, which is shouldn't like. He's got 15 goals and like 9 assists, man. So he's got a shot in him as well. So he's one of those players.
So my actual choice is actually Ki Sung-young. Like Lewis said, he was Swansea's Player of the Year 2014-15, 33 appearances, 8 goals. He helped Swansea do a double over Manchester United that season. Scored twice, home and away. 8 goals for the campaign, 13 shots on target. So he was like maybe 3rd or 4th for like goals per shots on target. So, you know, when he takes a shot, you know, there's a good chance it's going in. 139 appearances in total for Swansea. So he's not going to be your main goal getter, but he's like, you know, someone who like keep the ball ticking over, recycles possession. Is a handy midfielder to have, and he helped a lot in the way Swansea wanted to play. So when Gary Monk came in after Lodrop, I think, Ki Sung-young was a key figure for Gary Monk's Swansea team. So he's a good centre midfielder. not flashy, you know, not like doesn't do like a million step overs or anything like that, but you know, keeps the ball ticking over nicely, recycles possession. He's a handy possession-based midfielder to have.
From Korea's regista to their best player, I guess he's in all our teams. Song Heung-min, the probably best Asian player right now. I don't know if there's anyone technically as good at him at the highest level. Obviously, you find the guys on the streets, but you know, that's another story where it's not being broadcasted. For me, I think Song has been like, from his move since Germany, like he's been just a flair, phenomenal player. You just love watching him. You know, there's that meme of him crying that's been blasted over the internet. But how do you guys feel about Song? I'll start off with you, Rahul. Do you, obviously, we all rate him, we put him on our team, but would he be your captain?
I think he's certainly capable of being captain. I mean, look, is he captain for the national team?
I think so,
Maybe.
yeah.
But yeah, Heung Son is kind of achieving. He's close to becoming that Kaka type player that he just doesn't have haters. Like just everybody loves to see him do well, even if they don't. Even if they hate Tottenham. Like you as a Chelsea fan, I'm sure you hate Tottenham, but then I'm sure you like don't hate Heung Son as much, if at all. You know, statistically, it doesn't like wow you. So he's got 151 appearances, 51 goals, 26 assists. So it's decent, but a lot of it has come down to kind of Tottenham's rotation. So I think a lot of the time he's been there with Pochettino, and in all his Tottenham career, he's never started more than 30 games in a Premier League season, even if he's had more than 30 appearances for the Premier League season. So they're kind of like chopping and changing. Like it breaks down a player's rhythm, you know, and it breaks down chemistry with the attackers and with your teammates and things like that. So of his 151 appearances, only 106 of them have been starts. So if you kind of look at it like 106 starts and then 50 off the bench, then it kind of negates that. He's also got a lot of, if you look at like per 90 stats, he's quite efficient that way. So that, you know, that then feeds into the thing that like when he's actually starting or when he's playing, he's really productive. He's Player of the Year for Spurs 2018-19. He was 22nd in Ballon d'Or voting for 2018-19. And just coming back now to the per 90 stats. So like this is just sort of like averaged out. It's kind of like similar to the NBA where they average it per 36 minutes just to make sure that like if everybody had the same playing time, how productive would they be? And yeah, so his per 90, it's just like he's always top 10. So like goals per 90, he was 6th in 2016-17 and 8th in 2018-19. Assists per 90, 4th for 2019-20. The season's still going on. So he's a very efficient player, and I think a lot of the substitute appearances make his stats look bad.
He's got a couple, Lewis, Player of the Months and a couple Goal of the Season. Is it Goal of the Months? I believe.
Yeah.
Couple Goal of the Months. And obviously, there was quite recently, this season where he did that solo run, which was quite nice. So, obviously, I'm going to ask you this question. Obviously, a lot of Korean love him. You see in this tournament, if there's one player from all our lists that's brought Korea to the Premier League, it's probably him, isn't it? You always see a small section of the Korean fans like in the corner or something with their flag. Yeah, Song. How do you think he's influenced the team?
You gotta cut that. You can't put that in.
Yeah. I would still think Park is still the biggest influencer, like in terms of like the Korean, because he did play for like Man United at that time, like in Asia. Man United is still the biggest club, regardless of like anything happens. Like now, like it's gonna take a lot for Tottenham to have this like commercial success in Asia alone. Like it's gonna have to be something like dramatic for Tottenham to be. If they sign like not even a Messi or Ronaldo at Tottenham, could bring like United fans to change over to Tottenham. for like Asia, especially like China. So it's going to be interesting to see, man. But I see Park Ji-sung, man. He's been there for like, he's got 4 Premier League titles, and you think of his name as the Captain Park. So if you think of like a South Korean player, I think most people think of like Park Ji-sung, man. So I think Son's still got quite a bit of way to go to be more recognised than Park Ji-sung, but yeah, he could do it.
Who have you guys put in the striker position? I've gone Mark Viduka, Leeds legend, just a wonderful player in that striker position. He's just with 90 goals within that, 92 goals, 240 appearances. Like his shooting accuracy was 41%, and from those 92 goals, none was by penalties. Do you guys have anyone else, or are we sticking with Mark Viduka, Lewis?
Yeah, I got Viduka as well. Like a lot of like Naz said, like especially 2002, 20 goals. Like I think there's like nowadays you want a 20 goal striker, and then Viduka was your man. Like he was averaging about 15 goals for like Leeds stay, and then he went to Middlesbrough. And he still kept them up to the Premier League for a good 3 or 4 seasons. So he's a must for me for what he's done to the Premier League and especially Asian heritage, man.
Just going back into it, if you guys remember, that Middlesbrough team was kind of not bad when they had Schwarzer. There was one player when I was doing my research, Tunshay. I don't know.
Tunshay.
Yeah. When I was thinking about, like, when I was doing the research, I thought maybe he should have been in our streets. We'll never forget of a player. He was a magical player. But going off topic, who have you got, Rahat, in your?
So for me, and this depends what you guys want to do. If you guys are looking at like Premier League medals, because this team in total is lacking a lot of Premier League medals, apart from Park Ji-sung, who's won 4 by himself. There's no one else. So if you want Premier League medals in the team, you'd have to go with Shinji Kagawa occupying the opposite wing to Sun, and you'll have Shinji Okazaki up front. So add a bit more Premier League medals. Not bad players by any means. Okazaki did play well. Where's my Okazaki stats?
Who have you got on the other wing?
I got Harry Kewell. So I think he's one of the only like Asian football players to get Champions League, even though he was taken off like substitute quite early in the match due to injuries, ongoing injuries, man. But he could have been a success, man. He could have, like, his unfortunate event could have won us the Champions League, man. Go back to her.
Yeah, going back to you, mate.
So I found my Okazaki stats. 114 appearances, 14 goals. He did pipe up with the more important goals. He did score a bicycle kick and a 1-0 win to take Leicester 5 points clear at the top of the table, and he averaged about 2.14 points per match whenever he played. So he had a positive effect on the team. Obviously, statistically, nowhere near Mark Viduka. The guy was just an animal. 240 appearances in total, 92 goals, 27 assists. He had a 20-goal season with Leeds, and they came third in, I think it was 2001 maybe, or I think it was whatever season Leeds came third in. He scored 20 goals in that season. Never quite got the Golden Boot, but he was only a couple behind, maybe third, fourth place position. And wherever he went, he tended to score goals. He had a couple of dry spells, but nowhere near to the level of like Shinji Okazaki. So in terms of goal scoring ability, you'd want Mark Viduka. But then in terms of like Premier League winning ability, in terms of like Premier League success, you'd have to give it to Okazaki. So it depends what you guys want to go for.
Yeah,
and it's the same with
I was going to say it's a difficult one because it's like because when I was looking at Okazaki, and I want to try and have a balanced argument on things because you both have different players in that position. Okazaki scored, I guess, crucial goals is probably more the term because I believe there was games where Leicester won 1-0, and he was the man that scored those goals. I think the season where they won the league, it was his highest, wasn't it? 6 goals. So I'm not saying it's not important, but then when you look at achievements, it's good. Tottenham, I think they beat them 1-0, and with Newcastle, it was a 1-0 winner, and there was maybe a couple more games where that 1-0 obviously came through that, led them into the game. It's a difficult one, but I think we need to go for Duka, only because of longevity, consistency. I think Okazaki, you got the Premier League, but then Viduka was probably all-round better player. It's saying it's that comparison. I know this is a bad comparison, but it's like Giroud. He doesn't score a lot of goals, but he scores a lot of great goals.
Yeah.
So that's how, in some ways, I can see Okazaki. Moving on to that wing position. So who's got Shinji Kagawa?
I don't have him per se. I only have him if you're going after the Premier League most medal winning squad. But when you look at Harry Cahill, so as Lewis mentioned before, he was kind of like the first Daniel Sturridge. Was just always injured. Got injured in like the 2005 Champions League final. I think he got injured in the FA Cup final as well, and then I think he was injured for the 2007 Champions League final. So just riddled with injuries. He had a very impressive Leeds career. So he broke into the team when he was 16. And the season Leeds came third, 36 appearances, 36 starts as well, 10 goals, 4 appearances. So he's chipping in there, and I think he was maybe 20 at the time as well. So he was a young kid, doing very well. And in general, his Leeds career is pretty good. His best statistical season for Leeds would be his last one. 31 appearances, 14 goals, 9 assists. So that was the season Leeds were like starting to just ship everybody off. They sold Rio Ferdinand, they sold the dude who fought with Kieran Dyer, Lee Boyer, and a couple of other players as well. So that season where Leeds came 15th, it was Harry Kewell's 14 goals and Mark Viduka's like 17 goals or something like that stopped them from actually getting relegated. It was only until the season after that Kewell left that they actually did get relegated. His Liverpool career never really kicked off due to injuries, due to inconsistencies in his game. He never really had the same amount of minutes played as he did in Leeds. So like in his Leeds career, he's averaged like a high amount of 80s per game. Whereas he never averaged 80 once throughout all the season to Liverpool. So
You mean, 81 minutes? Sorry.
Yeah. So like 80 minutes, around about that area. So he's playing, predominantly a large part of the match. But then he just didn't have that opportunity at Liverpool. Partly because of like injuries, partly because of like other alternatives. So a bit of a Daniel Sturridge type situation, to be honest. But his Leeds career is very impressive, and it's better than Shinji Kagawa's one season at Manchester United.
Just before you jump on, Lewis, and give your final thoughts on Harry Kewell. So overall, his stats is 274 Premier League appearances, 57 goals, 38 assists. I would describe him probably the second best Aussie in the Premier League. Obviously, there's Mark Schulze, but I think he'll probably go third for me. That's my sort of opinion. But with Kewell, when looking at it, he's got better stats than Tim Cahill, which I was looking at, which I didn't know. But one funny thing, actually, I was reading, I think it was his agent that said this quote, so I'm going to read out to you guys. Kewell lost 3.5 years of his career at Liverpool because the guys over there in England had quite literally no idea what they're talking about. It was a disgrace that Harry was treated. Kewell survived the South African World Cup without adding to his lengthy injury. I don't know what beef his agent had there. But, Lewis, just jumping back into you. Talk about Kewell. Tell me about it.
I think Kewell, man, it's been like 1995, 2008. I think definitely he was more known for like Leeds United's days where he was less injured. And then you got Liverpool. He was just injured all the time, like Rahat said, man. Like Champions League final, he was injured like literally a few minutes into the game, like, and I think he got subbed in for Didi Harman, and an FA Cup final as well. But I think definitely like Harry Kewell was under. He could have done a lot more, like in terms. He could. I think he would say himself that he could have done a lot more, achieved a lot more, if he was like injury better injury planning. For example, I think also so like Michael Owen as well. I think Michael Owen also had the issue of like Liverpool saying he was always played at like 18 years old. He was playing every single match, and this fatigue always builds up, man. So I think it was a bit of the down part of Liverpool to play him so many minutes at such a young age, especially like looking at Michael Owen at 18 years old. But I think now with like game control, for example, like looking at NBA like Kawhi Leonard, man, he sits out games, said I don't want to play the game, man. Said yeah, we'll sit out the game. So I think it's a bit of mismanagement for Liverpool as well from like injury standpoint. But overall, he's a very good player, man. He's still got the Champions League, he's got the FA Cups, and he's now I think he's a coach for a lower league team. Yeah, so he's doing well himself, man. Just bring him back.
The thing with Harry Cahill is that when he wasn't dying, he was a very good footballer. He had like a wonderful left foot. You talk about delivery, crossing, set pieces. He scored a lovely goal, I think, against Everton, where he just curled into the top corner. Had a couple of nice volleys as well. So his left foot was a very dangerous weapon to have. He was unfortunately just the rest of his body that was dying and disintegrating. But in terms of technical ability, very up there. Like he clearly had that in his game, which is why I think Liverpool stuck with him for so long, because they were trying to get that out of him. And it came, but only in flashes.
So that's probably our team, ladies and gentlemen. That's our first 11 of this series. So just to repeat to everyone, so we've got Mark Schulze in goal, Lee Kwong-yo at left back, Yoshida and Sun Ji-hai at centre back partnership, and Lucas Neal at right back. We've gone in the midfield trio of Ki Sung-young, Tim Cahill, and Park Ji-sung. Up front, we've gone Song Heung-min, Mark Viduka, and Harry Kiwa, front three. And who are we saying captain? Park?
Yeah, I'll go with Park Ji-sung.
Park Ji-sung?
But Heung-min Son is the lifeblood of this team. Like, if anything good's going to happen, it has to be Heung-min Son. Like, he has to do like a Burnley or... remember when he was like the main reason that Tottenham beat Manchester City in Champions League last season? Like, it was just because Son couldn't stop scoring. So, yeah.
Amazing player. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us know if you have anything different, if you agree or disagree. Again, like, comment, subscribe.